Hey, what's going on, everybody? Samuel Kim here, and I'm back with another one. Today, I have a lot of questions to answer from fans, but also there's a few subjects I wanted to tackle, so I appreciate you guys for tapping in. If you guys are tapped into this channel and you haven't subscribed, subscribe right now. Hit the like button right now. I really appreciate it. It means the world. We are going to get straight into it, and today we are talking about, well, first thing, let's talk about JUCO and high school players and their recruitment. I think I think JUCO and high school players are really starting to get like pushed out of the recruiting process just because of the transfer portal. And as a coach, as a coach, would you rather take somebody who's been in college before and it just didn't work out, or would you take a high school player that you have to mold, might have a lot of potential, might have a great future? I can't imagine what my recruitment would have been like if the transfer portal was out right now, because I only had one offer to college. So I can imagine that my recruitment would have been much slowed had the transfer portal been a thing. I'm glad it wasn't, but yeah, I feel for these guys out here, these JUCO players. I have a few friends who coach at JUCO. A few of my close friends coach at some JUCOs, and back in December when there was the first signing day, I was like, so what's up? Like, do you guys have any guys signing today? And I think both of them told me like, no, they didn't. And I think they said most of their guys are waiting till the second signing day or maybe even spring. I can't remember exactly, but I know that the transfer portal definitely changes high school and JUCO recruiting. I would love to have a coach on sometime, a high school coach maybe even, and talk to him about how that affects his kids and what he hears from college coaches regarding their players over a transfer portal guy. Like, I wonder what the deciding factor is from picking. So say you have two quarterbacks. One's let's say, two-star freshman, three-star freshman, looks like he has a lot of potential, over a no-star transfer portal guy. Who would you rather take? A no-star transfer portal guy who maybe has a couple of stats, has played in a couple of games, but hasn't really balled out at anywhere he's been, over probably a high school guy, 2 to 3 star guy who tore it up in high school, but obviously was playing against high school competition? I think it's a great question to ask, and I would love to know the answer from some coaches. I would love to know what you guys think too. Like, if any of you guys are watching this and you guys have kids, have you guys heard anything from coaches revolving like recruiting and the transfer portal? I don't know if kids so much post their offers anymore, but I remember there was a time when kids would post every single offer they had, and I felt like high school kids, at least high school kids out of Oklahoma, I felt like these guys were getting offers from everywhere. And all of a sudden now, I just feel like some of these young guys aren't getting looked at, and maybe the capitalization of FCS football. That's where FCS football can capitalize on this. Maybe instead of attacking the transfer portal, FCS schools should let the FBS schools attack the transfer portal, and maybe the FCS schools should go attack the high school kids. Maybe that's where they can make their money, get some of those 3-star, 4 stars who are getting overlooked because of transfer portal or whatever. But I guess that's a hard choice to make, because obviously with the transfer portal guy, you still get a guy who has been in college, has been in a college system, has done college courses, and knows a little bit more than what a high school kid is going to come in and know. So I think that's a very interesting dilemma that faces these kids these days. I feel for them 100%. I don't know 100% how, I guess you just got to outshine. I mean, you got to go to these camps, go to these, the big thing high school kids can do is go to these camps. I remember I only went to one, but it was at Arkansas State. It's like just like the Montana camp that they put on at Montana. Go to those school camps. That's where you can get in front of those coaches, and that's where you can make your mark. I told a kid that earlier this year, or I guess that was last year in 2023, like maybe November, October. I told him, you need to go to these camps. Montana has a camp. Montana State has a camp. I'm sure Eastern Washington has a camp. You need to go to all of those and go to the Power 5 ones as well. But I'm just talking about the FCS schools because what we were talking about. But go to all your local schools camps. Montana Tech, I don't know if coaches from other schools sometimes go to these camps, but I know that sometimes that happens. So that's your opportunity to get in front of people and show them what you can do, if you feel like you're getting overlooked in the recruiting process. And yeah, but I feel for these kids. I don't know what the fix is for them. I wish I knew the answer. But the transfer portal is a new beast, and it has changed college football. It has changed recruiting. It has changed the whole game. So I mean, if you just look at that Florida State team, a majority of them were transfers, and as soon as they didn't make the playoff, a bunch of them opted out. So it really hurt them in the playoffs. It really hurt them against Georgia. They got blown out. So yeah, very interesting subject right there. The next subject I wanted to talk about was this Miami player who's getting his 9th year of eligibility. And they said he was Jalen Hurts' class, so that would have been the class right after me, because I got there in 2016. I'm pretty sure Jalen Hurts and all of them were freshman when I was a sophomore, or a redshirt freshman. But the quote that I have here is from Bruce Feldman. He said, Miami tight end Cam McCormick announces he will return for his 9th season of college football. He was in the same high school recruiting class as Rashawn Gary, Nick Bosa, and Jalen Hurts. McCormick battled through season-ending injuries in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. So given that he dealt with 4 years straight of season-ending injuries, obviously this year I don't think he had one, but 2021, 2020, 19, and 18 he had injuries. I think that guy deserves another year. I mean, at least a year to get healthy. I know that's the same situation as the linebacker Adam Bach from South Dakota State. He is getting another 7th or 8th year, and I think he's been hurt almost every year, at least the last 2 or 3 years. I know he's been hurt, so really good for him to be able to get that. But man, some of these guys, man, getting these extra years, it's like, I feel like guys are just floating everywhere around college football, just like jumping from school to school to school to school, and it seems like nowhere is working, and they keep getting extra years of eligibility. I think that kind of, I'm not going to call it whack. I don't know how to feel about this really, because it's like, I want to say it's whack because it's like you're taking opportunities away from another guy, but it's like, if you can't beat that guy out, why should you start anyway? So it's like, it's kind of twofold. It's like, if he's the best player to do the job, then he's going to get the job, but it's also like, dang man, like 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, that's a long time to be in college. And I don't know if everybody who's watched this has been in college, but especially playing college sports, college athletics, 9 years in school is a long time. So one thing I will say about this guy, Cam McCormick, I hope he has like a doctorate degree or at least a master's. Like you've been in college for 9 years getting paid for. He might have been a walk-on, so I'm not going to say that getting paid for, because, he could have been a walk-on. He might not even be on scholarship. We don't know. They might have taken his scholarship away. We don't know. They might have said, you can stay, but we got to give that scholarship to somebody else. But really, that's the thing too, is like, say there's this walk-on who's been grinding, and coach is like, all right, well, I don't know if this is what they say to people. I wasn't a walk-on, so I don't know how all of that goes, but maybe coach was like, hey, when this guy leaves, you'll get his scholarship. Or, maybe coaches were planning to give another kid a scholarship once this player leaves, but then this player gets granted another year of eligibility, and all of a sudden it's like, well, that scholarship is not freed up anymore. Obviously, the school doesn't have to renew that scholarship, but I think that'd be kind of messed up, seeing as this guy has dealt with injuries and he's been putting in work for you guys for years now. It's just an interesting dynamic going on in college football with COVID, all these guys getting an extra year. I always wonder if I had an extra year, because I've seen so many guys have this COVID year, and that wasn't even something that was discussed to us. I believe that I did have a COVID year, but it wasn't something that was said to me or that anybody talked to me about, so I don't think I was privy to that information. Maybe I would have considered it if I had it. Maybe I wouldn't have. Who knows? But what do you guys think about this guy getting his 9th year of eligibility? You guys tell me, because I think that's very interesting, and I don't know what to think about it. Another thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, this is something that, if you guys know anything about me, you guys don't know me. A lot of you guys don't know me personally, but I have bad road rage, really bad road rage, and it can drive me crazy. What I want to say, and this, I mean this, like, everybody hear me good when I say this, because I mean this, and this really irks me. You do not have to wait for everyone to stop at the stop sign for you to go. So that means if me and you are at a stop sign, you're stopped, I'm pulling up to the stop sign, go. You don't have to wait for me to get to the stop sign to take a, like, you don't, like, man. Woo. People do this all the time to me. Every time, like, I'll be pulling up to the stop sign and that person will be stopped and they'll wait for me to come to a full stop before they go. Maybe I'm wrong. Is that just like common courtesy? Do they teach that in driver's ed to do that? I don't remember learning that, but let me know if I'm off base here. But for the most part, I believe that you do not have to wait for me to come to a full stop at the stop sign for you to go. That needs to stop, man. It has to stop. It's crazy out here. Like, I'm a very impatient person. I have road rage, so that's probably why I get so mad, because I'm like, I'm waiting for you, and you could have been gone. We're still at the light. We're still both at the stop sign, and you could have been gone already, and I could be going now too. But maybe I'm just tripping. You guys let me know if I'm tripping, and yeah, I just had to say that. Okay, the best/worst thing I saw last week was that Nick Osmo is returning to Montana for the 2024 season. That is just amazing. That means if everybody makes it through the spring and makes it to next season, they will have Osmo, they will have Eli Gilman, and they will have Xavier. What's Xavier's last name? I'm blanking. Xavier Harris. Okay, they'll have Xavier Harris, Eli Gilman, and Nick Osmo. That is going to be a stacked running back room. Dare I say the best running back room in the country? Yet to be seen, but really exciting news for Montana for them to get him back. It's going to be a great year for them. I'm manifesting it right now. The Grizz are going to have an amazing year, but we'll see when the fall comes out. A lot of time to pass, a lot of more probably transfers to come in, maybe more guys to leave. Who knows? We'll see, but it's going to be exciting. The best thing I saw last week was that Nick was coming back. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Grizz men's and women's basketball. This is being recorded on Monday, the 23rd. Is this the 23rd? Monday the 22nd. This is being recorded on Monday the 22nd. Grizz and men's basketball is doing very well right now. Obviously, if you're watching this and you know what happened this weekend, obviously the women's team lost. The men's team won. I don't care about that. I'm still going to give them their props. They've been having great seasons so far, and I just want to give them their props. Great job to them. Great job to everybody on the team involved. Just great all around. Great all around. I just wanted to give them their props because they're having a really good year, and I know the Grizz men's team has had a couple down years. I know Coach DeCure had a couple years in there where he was winning those Big Sky championships. Mainly, that was like my freshman and sophomore year when they had Ahmad, Saeed, I'm blanking, Bobby, Fob, the big man down low, Workhorse. They had a squad. Hopefully they can get back to that this year. And then I just wanted to tell you guys 2 shows that I need you guys to go watch. 2 shows. Champion on Netflix. A lot of you guys might not like that. It's kind of like a musical show. They do a lot of music in there. You guys might not like that. I thought it was really good. And then Fool Me Once. Fool Me Once is like a mystery type show. These are both on Netflix if you guys have Netflix. But Fool Me Once, everybody should like that show. Amazing. It's kind of slow developing. Stick with it. Stick with it those first couple episodes. Stick with it. It gets good. The plot is amazing, and the ending is incredible. It will leave you shocked. Please go watch that. Let me know. Come back to me and let me know how you liked it once you watch it. Tell me how much you liked it because I know you will like it. But go watch that for me, please. We are about to get into these questions next. One person asked me, and this was a question that they added to my tweet that I had asked last week, and I'm getting to it now. But they said, what are your most memorable memories of playing with the Grizzlies? What are your most memorable memories of playing with the Grizzlies? That was asked by Hal Edwards, and I believe that was on Twitter. My most memorable memories. 2021 was a really good year. 2019 was an amazing year. There's so many memories. My most memorable ones: beating Eastern in 21, beating the Cats in 21, playing in the playoffs for the first time in 21, which is also when we beat Eastern. So, I mean, when I say that 21 season, there was a lot of memories to be made that year. Those were some great times for me in my career, and just things I was able to knock things off my bucket list that I hadn't got to do football-wise that year. So, great year for me. 21, the whole 21 season. Let's just call it the whole 21 season. Okay, let's get into these questions. First question is from Seamus Manley. These are all from Facebook. We'll get to the Instagram questions next. Seamus Manley. You played under 2 different coaching staffs while you were at Missoula. Could you break down some of the strengths about the current staff and perhaps some things that you didn't like? Man, put me on the spot here. I don't want to talk about my guys, but could you talk about some of the strengths, break down some of the strengths about the current staff? Some of the strengths, definitely a strength of Coach Houck's staff is that he's always going to have everybody like everybody's going to know what the expectation is. Everybody's going to know what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. Attention to detail is big with Houck. Being on time is big with Houck. Be early, don't be on time. That's why every time I go everywhere, basically now, I'm basically early now. And my girlfriend, my fiance, hates that about me, that I'm like, all right, we got to leave. And it's like 30 minutes early. And in Missoula, it doesn't take more than like 15 minutes to get anywhere. But I just always like to be on time because with Houck, it was like, I don't know, like, it's like, you have to ask the players, but it's like almost like anxiety, like thinking about being early to a meeting, because I was only late to a meeting under Houck once, but I remember he didn't even rip me or anything. I remember and this hurt me more than anything. I was late to the meeting, and I think Coach Morningwig was talking, or somebody, I think it was Coach Morningwig was talking to the team. And I walk in the meeting, and this is during the off season, so it was like, I think it was like February or March. I actually think it was February, because I think we were doing winter condo. And I had went home. I wasn't even doing anything, and it was like, we always have these Friday meetings, which I don't know why Houck does this. I don't know why we do the meetings on Fridays, when, like, basically on Fridays we'll have our lift, and I always lifted in the morning. We would have our lifts on Friday, and then we'd have class, obviously, but then there's nothing. But then there's this meeting at like 3 in the middle of the day. So I think I went to my classes early in the morning, went to the lift, went to my classes, and then I went home, and I was just laying down, like literally I was just like laying down watching TV. And then I just thought to myself, it was like, I think I looked at the clock and it was like 3, and I was like, oh shoot, I have a meeting. I was like, what am I doing? And it might have been like the first one of the spring. But what I was getting at was the way he looked at me. He just looked at me, and like you could just see the disappointment in his eyes, because I was never late like that. I never showed up late to meetings, and they actually didn't even discipline me. I appreciate Coach Peace for that, because I was like, all right, Coach, like, am I hiking the M tomorrow? And he was like, nah, I'll get you right. You're good. But like, I really wasn't ever late like that. And, you know, I appreciate the fact that they showed me grace. I would have done the discipline if they would have given it to me. I was well deserving of it. But got to be on time, got to be early. Let me think. Practice wise, you got to be giving your all in practice. Like you can't be soft in practice. And sometimes that used to piss us off as an offense when your defense is going hard every play, but you learn to appreciate that on Saturdays. Like you got to give 100% effort. Winter condo, I think winter condo is 100% harder under Houck than it was under Stitt, if I could just name a difference between the two. I mean, winter condo is a different beast under Houck. Winter condo was different under Stitt too, because we actually went outside under Stitt, which I don't understand. I mean, I don't think that's really safe for anybody, but we did go outside in the snow, and that was miserable from its own right. It wasn't miserable because of the work we were doing. It was miserable because of the conditions we were doing them in the snow and the cold. The field is frozen. You're doing bear crawls, you know. That was terrible. But mat drills, if you've ever done mat drills or winter condo, mat drills, suicides, all that stuff, if you've ever done that, it's not fun. It's not fun. Sled pushes with Coach Sachs, who no longer is with the staff, but sled pushes were always a bad time for anybody doing it, especially if you went from like suicides, you got out of the gym, you went from suicide doing like the sprints, then you went straight to the sled. You were in for a long day. Or if you like did mats and then you went to the sleds, or you did sleds and then you went to the sprints, like there's a lot of combinations. Like the winter condo is meant to break you. That's the time when they bring the walk-ons in, so they do all that stuff. And you know, winter condo is really fun, but not really fun. I don't know why I just said that. Winter condo is not fun, but I'm sure they're gonna have a great time in a month when they start that stuff. But those are probably some of the differences, some of the strengths about the current staff. Some of the strengths with Houck, I would say, is his attention to detail, his discipline, the way he coaches. I think he's a very good I think he's a very good motivator. He knows how to get guys going. We saw that this past year. I think he knows how to push those right buttons on guys to get them going. But more than anything, it's the expectations and the discipline that he puts on his players. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I actually recorded this on Monday, but this response is being recorded on Tuesday, because for some reason when I was answering the questions yesterday and I pulled up all the comments and the questions that you guys had asked, I didn't see your question, Kyler, so I'm answering it now. First off, I appreciate you for the love you showed at the end of your question. Thank you so much. But I will be answering your question now, Kyler. I did not forget about you. Here we go, right here. Kyler Neal asked, off topic, trolling EWU question. Do you get to 4K wide receiver yards if EB3 was throwing to you? Go Eagles. Well, I actually got a funny story real quick, Kyler, about Eric. Dog, love him. I actually contacted him after our 2022 season when we both were done, and or 2021 season. I think it was during the spring 2022, and just gave him his love and like, hey dog, hey bro, like you're a dog. Like I love everything about you as a player. Like you had an amazing career. I hope you all the best in your professional career and everything. We ended up linking up, not really linking up, but like me, him, and Tololo actually ended up playing in Michigan. He played, him and Tololo were on the Michigan Panthers, and I was on the Stars during the 2023 USFL training camp. Tololo unfortunately didn't make the team for the Panthers. Eric did as a third string. He was the third string quarterback. They didn't really give him a true opportunity. We don't have to go down that, but we kept in touch, and we actually have a picture. I probably should post that picture. I might actually post that picture today, but we took a picture together after we played. I think they actually beat us, but it was good to see him and cool to talk to him. He's a really chill guy, great person, awesome to speak to and awesome to be out there with, and also just awesome to be out there with another Big Sky guy that I competed against. But if he was throwing me first off, let me say, I would have loved to be in that Eastern Washington offense. That offense was absolutely ridiculous. I would have loved to play with Eric, me, him slinging that ball everywhere, like that would have been amazing. I think I finished my career with 2,900 yards. I don't know if me having a quarterback like Eric would have changed that. I did face injuries in 2019, a season-ending injury in like week 9 or 10 in 2019, and then in 2021, I broke my collarbone the last game of the season that we ended up losing. That may have played an effect in the game or not, but who knows? But if Eric was throwing me the ball, man, I don't know, because you guys threw it way more than we did. We threw it quite a bit, but we were more of a balanced offense. You guys threw it first before. I mean, you guys could. I don't even know if you guys. I mean, you guys had some good running backs, but you guys were gonna throw the ball all over the place. I might have got to 4,000 if Eric was throwing me the ball. I'm not gonna lie. I might have got to 4,000. That would have been crazy. Man, what could have been? But I much rather would have played for the Grizz than Eastern Washington, just because I'm a Grizz for life, and so he would have had to come to Montana. Then that could have happened. But appreciate you for that question. But the real question, he said, regarding NIL, do you see a big advantage for Montana and MSU in NIL compared to the rest of the Big Sky, as both schools already have great alumni fan bases, great facilities, and are the biggest thing in the state? Does any Big Sky teams have a shot to go toe-to-toe with them in NIL deals? In terms of Big Sky schools, I'm going to just be real with you. I don't think anybody can really go toe-to-toe with Montana. If any school probably can compete in terms of like NIL and what they're able to provide for their schools, I think it would probably be Idaho maybe. I'm just trying to think about the Big Sky: Sac State, Eastern Washington, UC Davis, Cal Poly, NAU, Northern Colorado, Weber State. Like maybe Weber State, but I just don't like. You got to think about, and you've mentioned it all: the facilities, the alumni base, the fan bases, everything. Like the biggest teams in the state. Like first off, we are the only thing in the state: Montana State. When you think about Weber, you got Utah State, you got who else is out in Utah? I think that's it, Utah and Utah State. But then you go to Idaho, you got Idaho State. So that's why I said Idaho, because Idaho is the other biggest thing. But you also have Washington State right there next to Idaho. So, I don't know. I don't know if anybody can go toe-to-toe with Montana. I don't think anybody in the Big Sky can go toe-to-toe with Montana and Montana State, truthfully. Just because of everything that they provide. We are the only team in the state. We pack our stadiums out every week. The football matters here, and not saying the football doesn't matter at other places, but that does. I mean, kids want to play places where football matters, and they want to play in front of 25,000 fans. They want to be somewhere where they know, if they make a name for themselves, they're going to be loved and they're going to be celebrated. I think that plays a big role in why Montana and Montana State are able to get the recruits they are able to get. I do see a huge advantage for Montana and Montana State in that aspect of us being in the Big Sky. It just falls down to just like geographical location, and just like we don't have any professional teams out here. We don't have anything else besides Montana State, and you already know what they're going to bring to the table in terms of fan bases, enthusiasm towards the football season. I mean, I don't know how many people turn out for Eastern Washington games or Idaho games or all those other teams. I don't know how it turns out. So I think it is a big advantage. And if anybody probably could go toe-to-toe, it'd probably be Weber or Idaho, in my personal opinion. Maybe one of the California schools, but the California schools, they're competing so much. NAU has good facilities, but they haven't been good. So I think NAU could maybe turn some things around, but they also have Arizona State. I mean, I think there's some things that play in Montana's favor that are just uncontrollable for other teams and even for Montana. Okay, this next question is from Matthew Hughes. He said, anyone have a word on Coach Houck? His contract is technically to expire in days, if I remember right, and I have not seen or heard anything. I don't know, man. I didn't even know. I saw you said on a Twitter, I saw you ask the same question. Appreciate you for that, Matthew Hughes. I don't know about Houck's contract. I gotta guess he would stay, but I don't know, man. I mean, you said his contract ends January 31st, so I guess we just have to sit and wait. I haven't talked to any of the players. I mean, I've talked to some of the players, but I haven't talked to them about Houck. And obviously, I haven't talked to Houck about his contract situation. That's none of my business. So, hopefully he stays. I think it's obviously up in the air right now because, I think he's going to stay. If I could give you where I'm leaning one way or the other, I think he's going to stay. I think if he was going to leave, we would have seen a bigger exodus of players and coaches. I think, more coaches would have left. I don't think we've lost any coaches, and I think more players would have left if Houck was leaving. So I think that's something to pay attention to. Maybe, one thing that I did think could be happening a couple of weeks ago after the season ended was like, maybe he waited to announce his coaching decision so that, the transfer portal window could close and players would stay, and hopefully that would help out the next coaching staff. That's just my conspiracy. That's conspiracy Samuel talking. So that might not even be true. That might not even be what's happening. I honestly don't know what's happening with Coach Houck and his contract, but I hope he's still here next season. So, yeah, I hope he's still here next season, and I guess we'll find out in 9 days if he gets an extension. I'm sure he probably already has an extension. We'll see if he signs it. We'll see what happens, but we'll have to wait till the end of January. Don Stewart said, how many FBS players use the portal to go to the FCS level? How many FBS players use the portal to go to the FCS level so they can actually compete and get playtime? Or does that happen? We hear a lot of negative about the portal. Tell us some of the positive about how it can help teams. Man, there is a lot of positive about the portal, and we've seen people drop down levels and have amazing seasons. Justin Ford was at Louisville. He transferred here, and the next season he had 9 interceptions, was the NCAA leader in interceptions, and, he blew up. I think he had like 20-something PBUs that year. He had an amazing year. I think there's many stories of players who have dropped down and had amazing years with the FCS. I think, and I'm not completely against the transfer portal. Let me be clear. I'm not against the transfer portal. I'm against players being unloyal to their decision that they made based off of them not getting playing time, or based off like if you're transferring because you're not getting the playing time you think you deserve, or if you're running from the grind, and it's hard to tell from an outside perspective if somebody's running from the grind, but I think there's a right way and there's a wrong way to go about the transfer portal. I think there's a lot of good that comes out of the transfer portal, like Justin Ford. There's many other players that have come to Montana and thrived. Look at Hayden, the number 48 for the Grizz this year. I can't remember. Hayden Harris had a great year this year. He came from UCLA. He's a grad transfer. It probably just didn't work out for him at UCLA. Maybe he wanted somewhere like Montana where he could get playing time and also compete for a championship. It works great for him. I think there's a lot of success stories in the transfer portal, and I think there's a lot of success stories for people who maybe leave for the wrong reasons, but it ends up working out for them. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to talk to a bunch of individual players to see why they left, to know, to have a better understanding of it. But one thing I do know is there is a lot of positives that come from the transfer portal. I don't think it's all negative. I think that some of the reasonings why these kids get in the transfer portal, that could be a problem. But in terms of just like FBS players dropping down to the FCS, I think there's a lot of success stories. I think every school in the FCS can probably point to a story to where they got an FBS drop down and he ended up playing well for them and being a difference maker for them. I think everybody can say that. Chris Walker, another drop down. Freaking our center for the last 3 years, AJ Forbes, FBS drop down. I think he was a walk-on at Nebraska, so he wasn't on scholarship there. I think he got on scholarship here immediately, but he has been a staple for the Grizz. And I'm just talking about Montana. I'm sure every school can speak to a transfer that they got that ended up being a dog for them. I can think of Idaho. I don't even know his name. I think his last name was Ivy, but they're tight end. I'm pretty sure he was an FBS drop down and balled. I mean, he made plays all over the place, and he was a really good player for them. So I think there's success stories all over the place. I don't think transfer portal is all bad. I think there's a lot of positives that come from it. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Jamie Williams. If I didn't say that last question was from Don Stewart. This next question is from Jamie Williams. I've always been interested in the recruiting process. Can you give us some insight on how that process went? Coaches reaching out to you, you reaching out, and has NIL changed that? So first things first, I think NIL has changed that a lot. To answer that question from back to front, I think NIL has changed that a lot. But in terms of recruiting, you get a lot of mail. I don't know if mail is still a good thing because it's still a big thing because, I think social media was kind of more new in 2014, 2015 when I would have been getting recruited in terms of opposed to now. I think social media is everything. I mean, I did get my Montana offer came through on social media, but I know sometimes when players go on visits, they get their offers. Sometimes players get that phone call, they get an offer. I think some players get offers through mail as well. Like, I have an interesting perspective on recruiting because I wasn't heavily recruited and I haven't talked to my brother heavily about his recruitment, somebody who was heavily recruited, but I know there's a lot of mail that goes out. The way I did it was I reached out to a ton of teams. I sent, my film every week, I do a little huddle cut up of my best plays every weekend and I would send it off to coaches who, I thought would be interested in recruiting me, especially the coaches who had said like, we'll be looking at you during the season. I think like a lot of coaches say that, like, a lot of people say junior and sophomore year is the big year to get recruited, and I agree with that because senior year they're looking the next class. Like I got offered my junior year and I didn't even have a good year. I think they just saw potential, but I think they also were just like following the process of how things is done. Like this is when guys get offered. Usually, if you get offered late in the process, especially from an FCS school, it's probably not a full ride. It's probably a partial or even a PWO. Like. That's just how those things go, especially at the FCS level where there's not a lot of offers or a lot of scholarships. But recruiting is really done by coaches. I know the NCAA regulates it heavily. There's a lot of black periods. There's a lot of things coaches can and can't do. I believe you can only contact a player once a week or once a day. I don't even think it's once a day. I think it's once a week that coaches can contact the player, which now makes sense because I used to send my coach film every week and I felt like he was ignoring me, but I think he saw him. But yeah, there's just a lot of limitations to the NCAA, but mail is a lot of the ways that kids get like I remember when I was a kid getting a handwritten letter that meant like, oh yeah, they rock with you. And I remember after I got my Montana offer, I kept getting handwritten letters from like every coach on the Montana coaching staff, and I was like, man, like these guys love me. And I'm sure they were probably doing that to everybody, but I remember I held that in high regard when I got those handwritten letters because I wasn't getting mail from anybody. And this is, my brother had stacks in the corner of his room of just mail from teams, just mail everywhere. OSU, Texas A&M, OU, like everywhere, you name it. He was getting mail from there. And I remember just like, I had my little stack and, but yeah, it's all done through the coaches. It's all regulated through the NCAA. Coaches send you mail. They send you, invites to camps. A lot of invites to camps. That's what they make sure to get out because that's how they make their money. A lot of times they make their monies over the summers through those camps. But it's done through mail. It's done through social media. I'm sure a lot of it's done through social media these days. I have a different perspective because of, social media was still fairly new during my younger ages. And I can't believe I'm saying my younger ages. I'm only 26. Some of you guys don't get mad at me. I know you guys might be older, but during my younger years, recruiting was done a little differently, and I'm sure it's changed through social media. I'm sure a ton of it's done through social media, but coaches contact players contact coaches, and I think it's more done through the coaches, though, the coaches contacting the players. I'm sure there's a ton of players contacting coaches, but I don't know, like you always see the links, the huddle links posted under coaches like post on social media. I would love to know the conversion rate of that. Like what is the conversion rate? How often does a kid post a huddle link under a coach's social media, and how often does that coach get back to them and be like, hey, like I saw your post I saw your huddle link under my post and I really like you. I'd love to know if there is a kid that's gotten recruited off of that. I'd love to know, but I think, those are kids looking for an opportunity. I understand that. I've been in that position before, and, I commend them for being able to be dedicated like that. But on the NIL side of that, I think it probably changes it a lot, man. I don't know so much how it affects FCS football because I don't know if there's a lot of FCS teams really offering high school kids NIL. Like, if I was an FCS coach, I wouldn't be offering you NIL. Like, you're coming to the FCS for a reason. Like, I'm not trying to crap on the FCS. I love the FCS. I think the FCS is a high level of football. I respect the hell out of the FCS. You guys know that. But as an FCS coach, like, first off, we don't have the funds to pay you any exuberant amount of NIL, but also it's like I just don't want to set that precedent. So I know for sure NIL has affected recruiting, especially at the Power 5 level. I just know there's a ton of kids going to the table, and the only reason I know this is because coaches talk about it all the time. About, when I hear a kid talk about NIL, that's when the phone call, that's when everything changed for me, and it would for me too, because it's like you should be picking a school based off how it fits you as a player, how the scheme fits you, how what they're gonna do offensively or defensively, how all of that fits you, how the curriculum fits you. Are there some teachers? Is there family around? You should be thinking about everything else rather than the money. But the money is like, you can't get away from it now. Like, NIL is the world we live in now. So it's like, yes, you can say it's annoying. Yes, you can tell a kid not to focus on that. But if that's what everybody else is doing, you don't want to get left behind. So I'm not saying just to ride the wave just because it's the wave, but also it's like, if that's what it is, and if I'm a kid who's a 5-star, who's the best player in my state, the best player in the country, and there's a certain amount of dollars that are put on my name for me to go to their school, I'm going to look into that. But at the FCS level, I don't think there's much of that going. I don't think NIL has really affected recruiting. Now, transfer portal recruiting for FCS schools, that might be a different story. But also, I don't know if anybody in the transfer portal who's looking to go to an FCS school is somebody who should be really focused on NIL. And I don't know if there's somebody who's really asking for a lot of NIL, because it's so weird, because it's like, you don't know. I don't know. I haven't been that coach getting those calls, listening to players asking for NIL, but I'm sure there's some of that going on at the FCS and FBS level. I'm sure there's questions being had everywhere. That's why these collectives are popping up. That's why these schools are trying to raise all this money, because, you got to keep up. You got to keep up. You might not like the way it is. You might not like what's happening in college football, but you either keep up or you get left behind. And we just saw Coach Houck attack the transfer portal vigorously these last couple weeks, buffing up this roster from what we lost. And I think he's done a great job in the portal, but I think NIL has definitely, at the Power 5 level, I know for sure NIL has affected high school recruiting, but I don't know if the FCS is so much affected by that. I think more, let me say this. I think at the FCS level, what NIL has affected now is retention, because just like, I think I got a question coming up about FCS being a farm system, but let me address that right now. The FCS is a farm system. Make no mistake about it. The FCS is a farm system for FBS schools for sure. I will die on that hill. But I think where NIL has affected the recruiting for college coaches is it's like, now not only do you have to build this NIL to be able to keep up, but also you have to build this NIL to be able to keep the players that you have. I think that's the biggest difference in FCS football now, is because, like, if you have a good 2, 3, 4 players, they're going to be getting calls from FCS schools. It's illegal as hell. We all know it's illegal, but it's going to happen. And coaches are going to be hitting up these players one way or the other, through an agent, through a collective, through this, through that. They're going to find a way to get a hold of them and let them know that we want you here. And I think that's the biggest effect that NIL has had on FCS football. It's these coaches having to retain their players. I mean, if any of you guys watching this, all of you guys watching this probably watched the junior situation play out. It's like, the NIL, everybody's posting the collective daily, hourly, trying to get people to donate to the collective so that they can keep Junior. Thank God he's staying. I wouldn't have thought anything about it if he would have left, but I would have been a little sad. But I mean, that's a perfect example of how FCS football has changed. These guys are trying to raise money so that they can keep a player who's already at the school instead of trying to get other players to come here. I think that's the biggest difference that it has with FCS football and recruitment. And that'll be my final word on that. Next question. Okay. John Thurman said transfer portal and FCS basically being picked over for talent. Good for athletes, but does this make the FCS much worse off because recruiting efforts go to waste? He said, my personal views are obviously led on a little here, but how can FCS team lift themselves up without their best players getting poached all the time? Can't get a better facility program without a team worth it. Can't get a team that's worth it without a program backing it up. Excuse me. No way to ever step to FCS talent without FBS talent on the team. I agree, man. I agree. And excuse me, gosh. I mean, I don't think good for athletes, but does this make the FCS waste? Does this make the FCS much worse off because recruiting efforts go to waste? No, I don't think it makes the FCS much worse because I think there's always going to be talented players out there. There's tons of players that get overlooked every year that have to go JUCO, that some guys don't even get opportunities, I mean, there's a ton of talent out there. I think the FCS is always going to be a level where is always going to be somewhere where people can fall, I think there's always going to be decent talent at the FCS level. The amount of talent now, I think that's a different subject. I think there's always going to be good players spread around the FCS, but is there going to be an abundance of talent? But has there been an abundance of talent in the FCS in the past? Like the schools that usually are up towards the top, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Eastern Washington, not so much this past couple years, Montana State, the Big Sky, Missouri Valley are usually the teams that are up there. James Madison, they're FBS now. I don't know, man. Like the way you worded your question is interesting because it's like, good for athletes, but does this make the FCS much worse off because recruiting efforts go to waste? How can an FCS team lift themselves without their best players getting poached all the time? And I think that relates back to what I just said. Instead of NIL affecting who you're trying to bring in, NIL for the FCS level affects who you're trying to keep because all these players are just think as a kid. Some kids, especially in Montana, some kids do dream of playing at Montana, an FCS school. Me as a kid, I didn't even know the FCS existed, and I have to believe that there's other kids out there that are just like me who have no idea that the FCS is out there and are just, trying to play at a Power 5 school. Everybody wants to play at a Power 5 school. Everybody wants to play at their in-home state school. So for Montana, that's a little different. But just think, as a kid, you grow up wanting to go to this Power 5 school. You will grow up wanting to go to this Power 5 school, and they don't want you. So then all of a sudden you have to go to this FCS school. I don't even know where I was going with this point. I'm actually going to cut this out. I don't even know where I was going with this point. NIL definitely affects who you're trying to keep as the FCS level. It affects who you're trying to keep. It 100% affects who you're trying to keep. But recruiting in the FCS is always going to be less than the FBS. There's always going to be less talent to pick from for the FCS. The FCS, I don't want to call it scraps because these are great players, but the FCS is always going to get what's left of the players because all the best are always going to go to the Power 5, and then it's going to be a trickle-down effect. So I think there's always going to be talent at FCS because of the trickle-down effect that exists in college football. I think, let me read that back again, man. Good for athletes, but does this make the FCS much worse off because recruiting efforts go to waste? Okay, let me answer your question plainly. I don't think recruiting efforts go to waste. Mr. John Thurman, I don't think recruiting efforts go to waste. I think it shifts your focus in recruiting a bit, but I don't think it makes recruiting efforts go to waste. I just think you have to shift your focus. Obviously, retention is a big thing. Oh, that's what I was saying. So, as an FCS, as a kid, you grow up wanting to go to this FBS school. You end up having to go to FCS school. When you have the opportunity to go to FBS school, you're going to take that opportunity. I think that's what we're seeing in college football with all these kids going up. I don't think it's so much poaching. There is some poaching going on. There is some poaching going on for sure. Let me restate that. There is some poaching going on. But I think these kids are just capitalizing on opportunities that they've always wanted that were never there for them before. So I do think the FCS is a farm system. I think they are being picked, like they're picking some of the best guys off of every team, or at least trying to pick the best guys off of every team. I think it's up to the coach and, the community and the school to be able to retain these guys. I mean, it sucks that you have to try to retain a guy that, chose you in the first place, but that's just the FCS and that's where we are. Yeah, better facility, but other team. No way to ever step up to FBS talent without FBS talent on the team. Yeah, man. I mean, it's a deep discussion, man. It's a deep discussion. I mean, man, this is interesting. See, let on a little here, but how can I see the best players getting pushed all the time? Man, okay, so you're saying how can a team lift themselves up without their best players getting poached? I mean, there's no clear answer for that. No team can lift them. Like the way that the transfer portal and NIL operate right now, today, there's no way for a team to build themselves up without losing their best players. If a team wants them, if the kid wants to leave, there's no way for a team like unless there's legislation on kids being able to leave and NIL and how all of that's going to work. Right now, there's no way for a team. There is no way for a team to retain their players without getting poached. I mean, there is no way. There is no way. So, I mean, that's just going to be on the coaches. It's going to be on how good you recruit. How good are you able to, how much do your players love you? Do your players want to play for you? It's all on the coaching staff. It's all in the community. It's all in the school. How much do they like this place? How much do they like this coach? How much do they like, what's around them? How much do they like how they're being used? I think that's a big part of it. So, it sucks to be able to say this because it feels like professional football, but you're going to have to keep your stars happy. You're going to have to find a way to keep them happy. And a lot of times what that is money. So, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying about NIL and how NIL has changed recruiting for FCS rather than FBS. For FBS, you're trying to bring in those transfer portal guys through NIL. At the FCS level, I think you should be building your collective to retain your stars. And obviously, if you don't have any stars, that's where the NIL comes in to bring in those stars. But I think at the FCS level, the NIL becomes important when it's about retention. So I think at the FCS, it's retention, and at the FBS, you're trying to get as many good guys as you can. That's my 2 cents on that. I'm sorry it was long-winded. I'm sorry I had to go back and forth, but I hope I answered your question for you. All right, last Facebook question here. Lance Tobin said, what do you think about the guys the Grizz got in the transfer portal? Also stoked Osmo is coming back. I think it's amazing. Obviously, these guys are coming here for one reason or the other, grad transfers, or maybe it didn't work out. But we got a D-end. We got a couple linebackers. We got a quarterback. I think it's going to be interesting. I think the quarterback is going to be an interesting one because personally, I do think Ayat needs maybe another year to watch and learn. I don't think he's going to be 100% ready this year. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope he balls out this year. I hope he has an amazing year. But just knowing how sometimes how hard the quarterback position can be and how much you have to be able to operate. I think he did fine this past year operating the offense. I think he did a good job. But I think he might need another year. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully I'm wrong. But I think that's going to be the most interesting position battle for the Grizz is the quarterback position because I think the quarterback that we brought in, obviously he was behind an NFL quarterback in Jake Haener. I don't know how you say his last name, but I think in his playing career, our quarterback, I think he's thrown like 6 touchdowns, maybe 9 interceptions. I haven't 100% looked at his stats, but he was a backup for a reason. Behind Haener, obviously that's an NFL quarterback. I don't know if he started this past year. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if he started this year. So I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But I love all of the guys that we've been getting out of the transfer portal. I think they've been answering a lot of the holes that we got. The D tackle that I think is from, where was that D tackle from? I think it's from somewhere in the CAA, but I know we got a D tackle, a D end. I think we're filling some holes. Obviously, we got a couple linebackers. That was a position that we needed to fill. I believe we got a corner. I think, man, that Utah corner, I'm excited to see what he's able to do. Yeah, I mean, we got Trevin coming back. We got Ryder coming back. Nash and TC are gone. I believe Corbin is gone as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how we fill that back. And I think we need to, I don't know if we need to bring in a bunch of DBs. I know we still got Jackson Lee. I don't know if Garrett is here. I think Garrett might be gone too. So it's interesting. I think they've answered a lot of questions, but I think there's still some things that we need to shore up through the transfer portal. So that's going to be interesting to see how they do that. We'll find out, but it's going to be an interesting offseason. It's going to be a great offseason, and we're going to see what the Grizz do. Okay, next, I had some questions on Instagram, and we're going to answer those right now. Okay, M. Cormy asked me, rank 5 of Jordan's injuries on a scale of 1 to 10. So Emily, and this is my fiance. Jordan is my fiance. Emily is one of her best friends. Emily, rank 5 of Jordan's injuries on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't even know if I've seen Jordan have 5 injuries, but there's been 2 recently, and they've both been ankles, and she's rolled both of her ankles. Man, what do you mean by like on a scale from 1 to 10? A scale of what, like how bad they were? I'll say the injury that she had in October at Carol's wedding. Carol is also one of Jordan, my fiance's best friends. We went to her wedding in October. That's why I wasn't at the Sac State game. That's why I wasn't at the Sac State game and on the radio for the Sac State game. But scale of 1 to 10, that was probably a 10, just because it was right before the wedding started, and it was just like in front of everybody, and it just looked so bad. Like she rolled her ankle getting. I love you, Jordan. She rolled her ankle stepping off the curb, and then like she rolled her ankle, she fell, and then she rolled it again, and then she was just like sitting on the ground. So that is probably number 10, just because that's a 10, just because, at a wedding, everybody's watching. It's embarrassing. You're in a nice dress, you're in heels, and then, after that, you're just limping around. She ended up bouncing back from it. She's a trooper, but that's probably a 10 on the scale. The next one, this is the only other injury I have. This is probably a 10 too, but last week, she woke up in the middle of the night and she came back to the room. I was asleep, but I woke up and she came back to the room and she was like bawling her eyes out. And I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? She's like, I just fell down the stairs and rolled my ankle. And I was like, I didn't laugh, but I wanted to because it was a little funny. I obviously I hope my baby doesn't fall down the stairs and roll her ankle all the time. But that was probably a 10 too, just because like I don't think I've ever heard of that. Like, I'm sure there's people that fall down the stairs all the time, but it's even worse because at the bottom of our stairs, there's a wall. So it's like the stairs go down and then you got to go this way to get off the stairs. So she tripped on the stairs. She said she thinks she was sleepwalking. So obviously I'm glad she was okay with that. It was only a minor ankle sprain, but she tripped on the stairs and I think she might have like hit her face or something because the way she was crying when she came back into the room, I felt so bad. We can laugh about it now, but in the moment it wasn't very funny. And that's why I just got kind of sad because I was thinking about, damn, like my baby was hurt and I feel bad about that. But yeah, Emily, those are probably the top, the 1 through 5. Those are probably, I mean, I don't have 5 injuries that she's done. So those 2 are probably 10s just because of the timing and just everything involved, the situation. Okay. Walkout song ideas for your wedding. This is also from Emily. Man, there was one. I Choose You by Kiana Leede. Let me see. I Choose You. Everybody has a song named I Choose You. Okay, yeah. Kiana Leede, I Choose You would be one of our walkout, would be my choice for a walkout song for our wedding. I don't know what her choice. I think she showed me some of her choices, but when I showed her because we've liked this song since we like met back in 2018. So I remember when I showed her this song like a couple months ago, talking about our wedding, she was like, "Oh my gosh, yes!" And so I Choose You by Kiana Leede. You guys go listen to that song if you want, but that'd probably be a walkout song. Favorite play you've ever made? This is also from Emily M. Cormy on Instagram. Favorite play you've ever made? Man, okay, there was this touchdown against UC Davis, and this is just like, this exemplifies the connection that me and Dalton had, and this is why I love Dalton so much. I have so much love for Cam. Great quarterback, was a winner. He only lost a few games in his career, so don't get it twisted. That guy's winning percentage might be one of the highest in Grizz history. Somebody should check me. No, probably Clifton. He only lost 1 game. But Cam was a winner, and I love Cam. Dalton was personally my favorite quarterback that ever threw me the ball. And I remember, so we were running these little quick screen routes. But UC Davis, which is funny that now that I think about it, now that my knowledge of the game my IQ has grown a little bit, I have no idea why UC Davis was jumping off sides at their own home stadium. But UC Davis was jumping off sides, and I just kept running my route, like the little quick screen route, and he wouldn't throw it to me because obviously the guy would be right there. I remember he came to the sidelines, and we had this play that we call where we're trying to get them to jump off sides, and they kept jumping on it. He said, if they jump on that, next time they jump, just go. Don't run the fish route, just go. And, they jumped, and I remembered, and I went, and Dalton threw it up, and I caught it, and broke a tackle, or, that guy fell, and then I just ran to the end zone, and, it was offsides, free play. We scored, so it was a touchdown, and that was, I didn't moss a lot of guys in my career, sadly, but if I could say one of my favorite plays, that's one of my favorite plays. I don't even know if I've ever said that when somebody's asked me that, but definitely one of my favorite plays right there, just because of we had talked about it. And that's always, you ask anybody as a player, it's always gratifying when like you and your quarterback talk about something and then you get that look or it happens and then you execute it. I mean, like there's nothing sweeter than that when you guys are on the same page. So that is probably my favorite play of all time. Okay. Moda Consult Moda Consult, and these are all from Instagram. Moda Consult asked me, "Do you see transfers making our offense better than last year?" Making our offense better? I mean, I don't know how many offensive transfers. I know we brought in a quarterback, but I mean, I don't know. I know we're getting Cole Grossman back as well, which is something that we haven't even talked about. But Cole Grossman coming back for this offense is going to be so nasty. I don't think you guys understand. It's going to be so nasty. Cole Grossman is a dog. I still don't even know what he did. I think it was in a knee injuries of some sort, but I don't know exactly what he did. But I know Cole Grossman being inserted into this offense with Junior, Keelan, and Aaron, with Eli Gilman, Nick Osmo, and Xavier Harris, with whoever's throwing them the ball, and Schaefer blocking, and then whoever's on the offensive line. I think this offense is going to be nasty. But I don't think we brought in a lot of transfers offensively. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we brought in one O-lineman, we brought in a quarterback, and then I think that's all we've done on the offensive side. I don't see why we would need any receivers. Maybe another receiver to back up, Junior, Aaron, and Keelan. It's always good to have depth. I know Coach Hauck loves to have depth, but I don't think we've ever brought any, transfers in offensively. So I don't know if they're going to make our offense better than last year. I mean, no. I mean, we didn't bring in a lot of transfers, so it's really hard to answer that question. I think we're going to have a good offense. I think you're speaking to the struggles that we saw late in the season, the struggles that we saw early on in the season. And I would boil that down more not to the offense or the pieces on offense. I would boil that down more to execution and executing the plays that are called. Because if you watch those games back, if you watch my breakdowns back, there's plays to be made in almost every game that, the Grizz struggled in offensively. There's plays there. The plays are being called. We just got to make the plays. Maybe, here it's not protection, or here the wrong pass was thrown, or here, it was a little inaccurate, or here, there's many things that can go into making an offense inefficient or an offense look bad, but we're not really bringing in any weapons, so that's not going to change. It just depends on who's going to be, really depends on the quarterback position, who's going to be making those plays at the quarterback position, and the offensive line. Are we able to protect? Are we going to have a better offensive line? Are we going to have a worse offensive line? I think that's yet to be seen. We will find out. It really depends on the guys in that locker room, what type of work they put in this offseason, how dedicated they are, how good they think they can be, how good they want to be. It's up to those guys, so we'll see. And then Ben McIntyre asked me favorite Grizz game you played in. I've answered this many times, but probably Eastern Washington or the Cats or UW. Any game, pick a big game that we played in that 21 season. That's one of my favorite games. All of them were memorable for their own reasons, but yeah, probably that. I think that's it for my questions today. I'm checking Twitter real quick to see if I had any more questions, and then I'll check Facebook one more time to see if anybody sent one. But I think we're going to be done today with our video. Let me see. Yeah, no more questions. Okay, well, that is going to do it for our video today. I appreciate you guys for tapping in. If you guys love this content, let me know if you guys want to see more. If you guys want me to have somebody on here, I'll try to get that done. Let me know who you want to see on here. I'd love to talk to anybody about college football. I love college football. I love college sports. I love basketball, NBA basketball, NFL basketball. I love it all. But I appreciate you guys for tapping into my channel. Thank you guys for asking me these questions. I thank you guys for listening to me ramble on about what I ramble on about every day. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you guys next week.